So my name is Lars Hedon, and I'm the founder and CEO of Yongo. And Yongo is a sauce producing company. We produce at the moment a spicy banana ketchup, and our newest product is a coffee barbecue sauce. Yeah, so I started Yongo as a kind of a side project because, well, basically I thought it was going to be easy in terms of making like something, but I also became very aware when I moved to Rwanda that there's not a lot of products, and even though the country produces so many great things in terms of fruits and vegetables, they're not transformed into something particularly exciting, and I felt that there was something missing there. So I started to play with the thought about making something that would fit with the tastes that were already here, and also with the produce that was already here. So that's why we created Yongo Ishushe, the banana ketchup. And the push it's been going for a while, slowly by slowly, and trying to overcome some of the hurdles, which there are many of. And especially working with the Kigali Farmers and Artisans Market have been helpful to get it out there, and also to test the market. Having hundreds of people coming in once a month before COVID, and then you can have them taste what you are putting there, and getting a lot of feedback that have been very interesting. Sure. So we're still quite a small production size. So the sourcing is coming just from the local market. So I have a couple of wholesalers who's very professional, who will be able to deliver on time and consistency and all that, and which prices are all right. They're decent. As we grow, the idea is to go and source directly from farmers, to get a better price, but also to kind of build that relationship. So we might have some say in the production as well, in terms of organic, for example, or whether or not we want the harvest to be just a little bit earlier, to get more of the sugars in the products and stuff like that. So we're basically produced in a very small location, and we're trying to get that S-marked, so getting to the standards that we can sell it in the big supermarkets, but also so there's a possibility to do official export. But it is a process again to get to there. One of the things we've been not struggling with, I guess struggling a bit with, is packaging. So there's not a lot of packaging in Rwanda available. And because we wanted to be a quality product, especially if we want to export to Europe and to the US, it has to look the part. It can't look too scruffy. People already suspect that things aren't quality coming from Africa, which is not fair, but that's why we have to kind of go that extra mile as well. Unfortunately, when we look at something like glass jars, which we are using, there's not really a lot of glass production on the continent. So far we talked to producers in Mombasa and in Dar es Salaam, but they are not very forthcoming. And that means that we have to export from further away. And because we're not a big production, we can only get small shipments in, and that makes the price even more expensive, on top of customs and everything. Yeah, so I mean that all depends on which market share you're trying to go for, I think. So it is definitely pricey when it comes to, well, our product is kind of in that high category. But when you look at the comparison, so if you look at the mayonnaise or the ketchups in the stores, which are brought in like en masse, it's not that much more expensive, honestly. So our margins are just smaller. But unfortunately, that's just how things are. There's quite a high taxation, and there's high customs on bringing stuff in. but that's how it is. If somebody have a ton of money and wants to just bring in packaging materials by the container load, I mean, that would definitely be a business, absolutely. And especially after so last year the plastic ban came in effect, so single-use plastic ban, and that essentially means like everything you see here with your, maybe not jams, but you see peanut butter and honey and stuff like that, all packaged in plastic, and that's not technically legal. And that's one part. That's also why we started with those plastic jars, but avoided it as well. And one of the other reasons is that it's very difficult to sterilize. So you also have the hygienic reasons for not using it. But we support the like zero waste, and we support not using plastic products. But there is just not like a lot of other alternatives at the moment. We're probably about 2 years old, I think. Yeah, we're definitely not profitable. I'm losing money every month on it so far because we can't get to at the moment we can't get to the mass that we need, to the critical mass. But we're getting there, and once we get the critical mass, it should be quite profitable, both in terms of the local market, but also in terms of exporting to the continent, but also outside of Africa. Yeah. Again, that kind of depends on which kind of products you're looking at and which timeline you're looking at, because everybody says Rwanda is a small market, and it is in terms of purchasing power at the moment, but there's like a middle class growing fast. You know, you have kids coming out of school with like from academia. You know, a lot of people coming out there. There's a lot of jobs being created. At the same time, this is a country of 12 million people, and that's not a small number. So if you're producing something that's quite cheap, well, you do have a huge market. One of the examples I always use is a year ago, up till a year ago, all of the toothpicks in Rwanda were made in China, right? So obviously there's a market. It all just depends on how much you want to make in each one, and how willing you are to scale to meet that demand. Currently we only have day laborers, so we have probably between 5 and 10 day laborers whenever we do production or have some capacity that needs to be done. Okay. As I said, just the lack of products on the shelves was one of the reasons. Another reason is, like, I'm from a food background. I've done everything from farming to food production to restaurants, and I felt that it was a shame to see so many good raw materials, so many good products being produced on the farm and not being put to use.
Okay. That's great. Where do you see Yongo 5 years from now?
5 years from now, we about 10,000 plus jars a month. We will be at least in I would say 3 to 5 other African countries, and maybe in Europe or North America. Yeah. There's a lot of advice, and also depends a bit on which sector. But I'd say consistency and quality is very important. If you start with a high price and a high quality, you have to keep it. If you start with something cheap and simple, you can't increase the price. But if you start with high quality, you can't decrease the quality. And that's what we see a lot within Kigali and within Rwanda, with a lot of businesses that are started, whether it be cafes or products or what it is. It kind of starts on a high note, and then people haven't been calculating in the cost over a year of establishing. So you just see, the week after opening, you can't get the burgers anymore or whatever it is. So keep that consistency and plan for that consistency. I said that's kind of one thing. I also see just be vigilant about keep pushing for it, because there is, as I say, there is a market, but there's a lot of obstacles. Don't try to cut corners. if you want to be a business, you will be having to pay taxes. So if you haven't calculated that into your product cost, at some point you'll then have to increase the cost of the product, and that means that you will have to say goodbye to a lot of your customers. So having those mechanisms built in from the early start, I think is paramount.
Sure.
Yeah.